Very witty, my partner. Pick out two. 1, 2. Oh, oh.
They poked eyes, slapped faces, and bumbled through scenes like lovable lunatics. But behind the curtain of slapstick comedy and outrageous antics, the story of the Three Stooges was anything but a laugh riot. Hidden rivalries, shocking accidents, buried family ties, and tragedies that scarred them for life. This trio's off-screen saga reads more like a cautionary tale than a comedy. While the world remembers their pie-throwing and head-smacking chaos, few know just how much pain, perseverance, and pure chance sculpted their place in entertainment history. These weren't just performers, they were survivors of trauma, victims of early Hollywood politics, and walking contradictions, with personal stories that defy their goofy personas. Some of these truths were swept under the rug for decades. Until now. These are the real stories, the raw, unfiltered secrets that the Three Stooges never wanted the public to know. Some of them were related. The Three Stooges' slapstick chaos often overshadowed the genuine family connection at the heart of the act. Moe Howard, the stoic ringleader with the bowl haircut and sharp temper, wasn't just cracking skulls for laughs. He was sharing the screen with his real-life brothers. Curly Howard, the fan favorite with a childlike energy and distinct high-pitched voice, and Shemp Howard, the original third stooge before Curly's rise, were Moe's younger and older brothers, respectively. Their on-screen chemistry wasn't manufactured. It was forged over years of shared hardship and hustle, growing up together in a modest Brooklyn household. This familial bond added a layer of authenticity and emotional weight to the act, even if audiences never knew it. Moe was not just the straight man to their chaos, he was their protector, their critic, and at times, their caretaker. As the trio's fame grew, so did the physical and emotional toll of their work, particularly on Curly, whose declining health became a silent burden for Moe. Meanwhile, Shemp, ever the dutiful sibling, stepped in and out of the act when duty called, often sacrificing his own solo career to support the group. Behind the eye pokes and pratfalls was a story of brotherhood, loyalty, and unspoken sacrifice. Their shared blood and history gave their routines a chemistry that couldn't be faked, turning what could have been a forgettable comedy act into a cultural legacy. Built new identities. Long before they became iconic purveyors of slapstick chaos, Moe, Curly, and Shemp were simply the Horwitz brothers, sons of Jewish immigrants navigating a country that wasn't always kind to outsiders. In early 20th century America, the entertainment industry was particularly harsh toward those with ethnic-sounding names, especially Jewish ones. To gain acceptance and broaden their appeal, the brothers adopted the stage surname Howard. This wasn't just a rebranding, it was a survival tactic. The choice to become the Howards wasn't about vanity. It was about opening doors that were otherwise locked. Changing their names allowed them to sidestep systemic prejudice and forge a path in vaudeville, and later in film. Larry Fine, born Louis Feinberg, made a similar change for the same reason. These weren't simple artistic decisions, they were necessary transformations in a time when identity could be a liability. But the trade-off was bittersweet. While the new names helped them succeed, they also meant distancing themselves from their cultural heritage. It was a quiet sacrifice, one that rarely gets acknowledged behind the laughter. Though they found fame as the Three Stooges, behind the scenes, they were still Horwitz and Feinberg, men shaped by their roots, but forced to mask them in order to thrive. Their legacy isn't just about slapstick. It's also a powerful reminder of what it took to make people laugh in an industry and a country that didn't always want to laugh with you. Tragedy struck early on. Larry Fine, born Louis Feinberg, wasn't just another vaudeville clown with a knack for slapstick. He was a man who carried tragedy from the very beginning. Growing up in a working-class Jewish family in South Philadelphia, Larry experienced a heartbreak that would mark his earliest years. The death of his infant brother left a scar on the family, a loss so profound that it lingered in silence more than in words. For a child, such grief was incomprehensible yet deeply felt. That unspoken sorrow followed Larry, even as he transformed into one of America's most beloved comedic figures. Behind the manic energy and playful antics was a performer with a past, one that may have lent his comedy a quiet poignancy. Larry's reactions always had a hint of sensitivity, his timing often laced with a pause that suggested something more than pure silliness. Friends and biographers have suggested that the pain he carried from that early family loss added a rare emotional texture to his character. That sense of loss would return in painful waves as Larry aged. First, he mourned the health decline and death of Curly, then Shemp, and eventually Moe. With each loss, Larry stood witness to the fading of the act that had defined his life, but also the people who had become like brothers in every sense. Through it all, he kept performing, perhaps as a tribute to those he had loved and lost, both in childhood and on stage. He had a horrific accident. What began as a moment of childish curiosity quickly spiraled into a traumatic, life-altering event for young Larry Fine. Inside his father's jewelry shop, Larry spotted a bottle, and thinking it was something to drink, reached for it without hesitation. Just as he lifted it toward his mouth, his father intervened, knocking it away in the nick of time. But not before the contents splashed across Larry's forearm, burning through his skin with horrifying speed. The substance wasn't harmless. It was acid, a powerful chemical used in the jewelry trade to test gold purity. The injury was excruciating and left his arm permanently scarred. For a child, the pain was unbearable, but even worse were the doctor's grim predictions. Larry might never regain full mobility in his arm. For a boy with boundless energy and dreams, it was a devastating blow. Yet, from this tragedy emerged an unexpected path. In an effort to rehabilitate his arm, Larry's parents made a decision that would ultimately define his future. They enrolled him in violin lessons. The repetitive motion and fine motor control needed to play the instrument slowly rebuilt the strength in his arm. But more than that, it awakened a passion for performance and showmanship. That violin became Larry's first stage prop, long before pies and pokes. It taught him timing, rhythm, and flair. Though the pain of that accident never fully left him, it set in motion a chain of events that led to his destiny with the Three Stooges. What could have ended in tragedy became the unlikely beginning of a legendary career. The incident changed his life. Larry Fine's life was irreversibly altered the day acid splashed across his arm. But in an ironic twist of fate, that very incident became the catalyst for his future stardom. What began as a painful rehabilitation process through violin lessons eventually blossomed into a lifelong passion for performance. As his arm healed, Larry discovered a deep love for music, one that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. His early violin training opened doors to local performances, from dance halls to vaudeville stages, where he honed his skills and earned recognition. Had it not been for the acid accident, Larry might have never pursued a career in show business, or at least not in the same way. His violin background, combined with his unique charm and refined demeanor, made him the perfect balance to the rough-and-tumble antics of Moe and Curly. While Moe's aggressive leadership and Curly's wild antics defined the Stooges, it was Larry's more subdued and cultured persona that gave their routines a distinct flavor. His quick wit, paired with his hidden vulnerability, added a layer of complexity to his character. Larry became the stooge who wasn't as outrageous or loud, but still provided a crucial foil to the chaos around him. The Three Stooges, as we know them, might never have existed without Larry's accident. It was his violin lessons that pushed him onto the stage, where he would meet Moe and Curly, and together they would change the course of comedy. The scar on Larry's arm, once a symbol of pain, became the unlikely mark of his destiny, one that left a permanent imprint on the world of entertainment. There was another close call. Curly Howard, beloved for his mischievous grin and wild antics, faced a life-threatening moment long before he ever became part of the Three Stooges. At just 12 years old, Curly had a frightening brush with death when he accidentally shot himself while handling a firearm. The exact circumstances surrounding how he came to possess the gun remain unclear, but the result was undeniable. While cleaning the weapon, it discharged, and the bullet struck Curly in the leg. Blood poured from the wound, sending panic through his family. Against the odds, Curly survived the incident, but the damage was lasting. The injury left him with a noticeable limp, a permanent reminder of his close call with death. Ironically, that limp would go on to become one of his most recognizable physical traits. His exaggerated, wobbly walk became a hallmark of his comedic style, adding to the slapstick humor that made him a fan favorite. Yet, behind the laughter was real pain. The limp, which fans came to associate with Curly's wacky character, was born from a traumatic accident that could have cost him his life. The very thing that defined much of his comedic persona was the result of a traumatic experience that could have ended his career and life before it even began. His physical comedy was often exaggerated, but it was rooted in a very real moment of suffering, one that would shape his performances in ways audiences never saw. They weren't all that studious. Moe Howard's passion for performance began at an early age, but it came at the expense of his education. Rather than focusing on schoolwork, he found himself drawn to the theater, often skipping class to sneak into shows or loiter by stage doors in hopes of catching a glimpse of the performers he idolized. To Moe, the classroom felt dull and irrelevant compared to the world of entertainment. His grades suffered as a result, and his interest in academics waned. By the time he was in high school, Moe had already decided that traditional education wasn't for him, eventually dropping out just 2 months after enrolling. However, what Moe lacked in formal schooling, he made up for with determination and a relentless work ethic. He was a firm believer in the concept of learning by doing. Instead of sitting in a classroom, he immersed himself in the workings of the entertainment industry, taking on odd jobs in film studios and running errands behind the scenes. Moe's early hustle wasn't about glamorous roles or fame. It was about gaining experience and learning the ropes of the business from the ground up. He wasn't just content with observing show business. He wanted to master it, own it, and eventually become a central figure in it. Moe's decision to leave high school might have seemed like a failure at the time, but in hindsight, it set him on a path to legendary success. His unconventional approach to life and learning would shape his career in ways that formal education never could, and it led to his iconic role in the Three Stooges, cementing his place in entertainment history. He had a strange path to show business. Moe Howard's journey into show business wasn't an easy one. He wasn't handed a silver spoon or a cushy role. His entry into the entertainment world was built on hard work and sacrifice. Moe took on any task that would get him close to the action, even if it meant working for free. He fetched coffee for established actors, cleaned dressing rooms, and ran lines with anyone who would let him. His goal was simple: to be near the spotlight, to soak up every bit of knowledge and experience he could. His relentless hustle eventually caught the attention of a small film studio, which gave him his first break with small roles in silent shorts. It wasn't the glamorous start he may have dreamed of, but it was a start nonetheless. Mo poured his heart and soul into every performance, slowly building his reputation in the industry. For a moment, it seemed like the long road was finally paying off. But then, disaster struck. In 1910, the studio where Mo had worked so tirelessly went up in flames, and with it, every single film he had ever appeared in was lost. Years of hard work, sweat, and passion went up in smoke. His early career, his very proof of existence in the film world, vanished without a trace. For most actors, this would have been a devastating blow, the kind that would have sent them into early retirement or forced them to abandon their dreams. But not Mo. He didn't let the fire burn away his ambition. Instead, it fueled him to work even harder. That tragic event, which erased his past, ignited his future, and he would go on to become one of the most iconic figures in comedy history. His first gig had an abrupt ending. Losing the early films to that devastating fire was a major setback for Mo Howard. It was his big break, the moment he'd worked tirelessly for, and in an instant, it was all gone. But instead of letting the loss consume him, Mo learned an important lesson that would shape his career. In show business, nothing is guaranteed or permanent. He quickly realized that no matter what was lost, the only way forward was to keep moving and evolving. His passion for comedy and his drive to make people laugh were stronger than any setback. While many might have been crushed by such a significant loss, Mo's resilience took center stage. He didn't spend much time mourning the lost footage. Instead, he doubled down on his commitment to the craft. He pushed forward with more determination than ever, throwing himself into new projects and focusing on the one thing that he knew he could control: his ability to entertain. What most people don't know is that the fire became a metaphor that followed Mo throughout his life. Beyond the early films, Mo faced personal losses that could have derailed him. He lost close friends, family members, and career opportunities that seemed impossible to recover from. Yet, no matter what he lost, Mo never stopped creating. He took each loss in stride, using it as fuel to push him further in his quest for success. Decades later, although those early films were gone forever, Mo achieved a level of fame and recognition that no fire could ever destroy. His legacy as a comedy legend became solidified, proving that, despite everything he lost, Mo Howard's impact would last forever. His hair really looked like that. Mo Howard's iconic bowl cut was one of his most recognizable features, but contrary to popular belief, it wasn't some carefully crafted hairstyle or studio creation. It was the result of his childhood. As a young boy, Mo's mother adored his thick, dark hair and refused to cut it, which led to the wild, unruly mop that would become synonymous with his later image. But while his mother may have loved his hair, it quickly became a source of torment for Mo. He was relentlessly teased by his peers for the unruly mess on his head, and the constant bullying took its toll. At his wits' end, Mo decided to take matters into his own hands. One day, frustrated with the teasing, he locked himself in a shed with a pair of dull scissors, determined to cut the hair that had become a burden. The result was chaotic, to say the least, but something remarkable happened. It became part of his identity. Instead of trying to hide his unruly hair, Mo embraced it, and that DIY bowl cut became an essential part of his image. When Mo began performing, he kept the look, recognizing that it made him instantly stand out. His distinctive haircut was more than just a random choice. It became his signature, setting him apart from the other performers in a sea of similar faces. The very thing that had once made him the target of ridicule turned into something that made him unforgettable. Moe's bowl cut wasn't just a hairstyle. It was proof that embracing what makes us different can be the key to success. Behind every eye poke, every pratfall, and every comedic scream was a real man with a real story, often one of pain, struggle, and unimaginable sacrifice. The Three Stooges weren't just funny. They were fighters, survivors, icons molded by tragedy, trauma, and talent. They hid their pain behind laughter so that the rest of us could forget ours, if only for a few minutes. And now that you've peeked behind the curtain, you'll never watch them the same way again. If this deep dive into the hidden truths of the Three Stooges shocked you, drop a comment below and let us know which fact hit you the hardest. And if you're as fascinated by old Hollywood secrets as we are, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next mind-blowing story. Until next time, stay curious. And remember, even legends have scars.